Cool. Just going to screen share and share some very high-level overview of what we've discovered and what we found in the past 2, 3 months working on the AMPD site and speaking to some students and guidance counselors and teachers. Cool. So just a quick summary, like we reached out to 550 people. From that, we got about 30 survey responses, did 8 user interviews, wanted to do some co-design sessions, but didn't time didn't allow for that. Um, so that's a next time type of thing. So first learning that we found was that when students land on the page, like generally they already know what they want to apply to, and I would add that they not only know what they want to apply to, they also know what they want to do on that page. Um, that being said, this is like our data set like largely skews towards like grade 12 students who may already really know what they want to apply to. They're later on in the kind of like decision making or customer journey, if you will, of applying for university. Um, So yeah, like we found that the discovery pages, like the pages where you're like browse different programs, were a bit less important than we thought they would be. Yeah, like those pages were less important than I thought it would be. People were there primarily to look for very concrete pieces of information. In terms of what the students resonated with the most, but as prospective students that resonated with the most, um, a lot of folks preferred Instagram first, then TikTok second as channels to communicate. And the question specifically was which two social media channels should your U Arts program put the most content up on? Something to note as well is that like we had a student that or prospective student that would search for dance auditions on the YouTube channel and see, what was involved in the audition process by looking at the YouTube channel. So, like a variety of different ways that students are looking to understand the program and what's offered, and using a variety of different channels, as you might imagine. International students really quickly want to know what their scholarships they're eligible for. And we found that in doing a bit of usability, that was a bit difficult. It's not clear what they're eligible for, and even the navigation seems to need some work to make it easier to see what scholarships they're eligible for. So that's something important to note. In terms of the teacher's role um, in all of this, teachers seem to be a little bit more um, detached from the kind of like decision making journey and customer journey of finding a university. They may review portfolios and provide recommendations. This is like I'm talking specifically to one case of a Comtex teacher reviewing portfolios and providing recommendations, but that seems like it's not really a big thing that they do anyway. It seems like a lot of this a lot of the work is the student doing the research themselves. They may like look to ask teachers like, hey, like what do you think about this program or this school? But we also found that in interviewing teachers that um, because teachers were in a different generation, there's a little bit less kind of not trust per se, but less relevance of how that school used to be. So, for example, Mr. Gordon, high school teacher, Comtech teacher, like went to Sheridan and also recommended Vancouver's film school and art school, but students weren't really that like all that in they weren't in strong belief of Vancouver Film School being like the top because of how many years ago has been since he went to the school. So if anything, like teachers serve as more of moral support rather than like actually being directly involved in the decision-making process. But portfolio reviews um, tend are something that teachers are involved in. So through all the interviews and conversation surveys, usability test, we found that this seems to be like the path that students take to evaluate university programs. First, they'll hear about it from friends or alumni, and this happens can even happen like a year, 2 years before they start applying. So even in like grade 11, grade 10, grade 9, that they hear about these programs. Um, they'll look for past student work or like signals of what students have done and signals of that so-called like success that may have come out of that program online. And then when it comes to more of like the time to actually bunker down and search, they'll do Google searches, find program requirements. That's 3 and 4. They'll ask ex students how to apply. Um, do a lot of like offsite research, like like in the case of the student that was looking at auditions on YouTube, right? So that's a lot of like offsite type of stuff. But again, like really leaning on past students, ex students to form not only to help them not only navigate the process, but to form an opinion about the different schools. In terms of 6 and 7, it actually seems kind of um, these are steps that the student will take independently, like looking at student life and co-op opportunities, which we found were the kind of like the two more important pieces of content to show, or at least student life was a piece of content that they were looking for, and co-op opportunities was something that they um, they found to exist in what they thought would be a good program. Um, so those two things were things that they did alone afterwards, but were fairly important to them as well to be displayed on the site. Yeah, this is an interesting one actually. Um, obviously with the pandemic and COVID and whatnot, like guidance counselors have had like a record number of students coming to them like really stressed and not being able to apply for university, or marks have been like delayed, or their application process has been very difficult because of the mess of things, and administratively like the chaos has passed to administration too. So things have been very difficult there. They've mentioned that any uh, any schools that may have like a mental health program, or like a strong therapy program or guidance counseling program, like definitely wins their hearts over. Um, Knowing that they've been through a lot during the past 2 years. The guidance counselor I spoke with recognized that, oh yeah, if there's any school that really leans into this, I'd be really happy to recommend, because that would make my life a lot easier, knowing that I'm passing students on to a program that like has strong guidance counselor support. So yeah, in terms of the actual support that the specific support that um, is provided to students by guidance counselors, it tends to be like navigating the OUAC website and learning how to submit courses. So it's more on the tactical end of of things of like applying for university. Um, More so than providing recommendations on brand, and there's not a lot of actually recognition even amongst guidance counselors of the different programs that a university might offer, which is interesting because you'd expect out of all the facility and staff, guidance counselors might really know what programs are out there, right? It's like most guidance, so the guidance counselor we spoke with, sample size 1, didn't know really what York offered in terms of the arts, didn't really know much about it at all, didn't really know much about the like different like new like modern like arts programs, like integrative, or like the like multimedia type of like digital arts programs that are coming out. They didn't know about that type of stuff yet, so that's interesting. But yeah, again, like any support there to guidance counselors in terms of like giving them the confidence that their students are going to go to a school that is going to be good for them mentally, would help them, because they've been very stressed and dealing with a lot of stuff. So yeah, like alumni, as you mentioned before, have the biggest effect on kind of students' decision on where to go, and that can happen way before like they actually apply to university. Internship and co-op opportunities are the most important criteria for students, generally speaking. And in terms of content to display on the website, student life and past student work is the most important to be seeing. And when we spoke to students about this, they mentioned that this could mean like photos of students on campus. It could mean a mix of like photos of the facility, um, but primarily photos of students enjoying life on campus is what's meant by student life. In addition to that as well, like auditions, like uh, or auditions and recitals came up as well as like example of what student life would be like. A notable story I think we should touch on regarding like the alumni part is that there was a student in the dance program that um, actually learned about the dance program years before through a Facebook post that a teacher of theirs shared that showed that they, used to go to York University for the program. So again, like it's very like it can like the brand seems very important, and like the social aspect seems very important in making a decision here. Um, yeah. So just some user stories now. Won't go into this in too much depth, but they're here. I'm going to share the document so you can look at them. Um, there's different user stories. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Seven different user stories, seven different people with different jobs to be done, current solutions and frustrations. Now, key ideas for building out more of the content and material um, digital assets is that decision making is very social. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? But like the research is really showing so. Like the fact that people are remembering a Facebook post from years ago that their teacher posted, and that's really informing their decision rather than top-down university materials or remembering like someone going to their school to speak, right? So it's very social. Finding in terms of like the what students want to do on the website, a task per se, like a usability task to test for and to continue to get better at. It's like quickly finding program requirements. Um, and the students just want this quickly. They don't really want it to be more pretty or like interactive than it needs to be. They seem to want the speed of this, like this like firm functionality of finding program requirements. That seems to be very important for them. Um, yeah, finding scholarships is important to international students, as mentioned. And student life, as we mentioned again, was among one of the most important pieces of content to display. There was also a strong belief that like designs should be different for art students than for like students of other programs, as well as a belief that more should be spent on social media in order to attract students. So a lot of this is in the documentation that I'll attach. Um, Here are some answers to that students have provided in terms of like how they would improve the program. These are very holistic questions that we pose to students in the survey, and we've selected the best answers. Kareem and I selected the best answers, and then we gave them a gift card for this. So yeah, in terms of improving admissions, I asked them a very holistic question: how do we improve admissions, right? Because that's ultimately the product goal there. Um, and they mentioned like they had ideas of like adding like maybe like involving Instagram type of influencers in the um, I guess in the marketing mix, and showing that they do field trips to kind of like international museums, art houses, and whatnot. Yeah, so working with celebrities, hosting parties, like a lot of like fun social stuff. It seems like art is attracting them more than um, I thought. In terms of designing specific or like improving specific designs, the first mock-up that was shared, um, they mentioned that it's important to have like more co-op job opportunities and co-op info. Um, so that's again like a piece of information they're looking for. We did like a small preference test of the different mock-ups, and um, the A came out most preferred, but they said that it needs a bit of polishing because it looks a bit templatey so far. Um, Let me just share it. Yeah. So they look. This is the most preferred. 5 out of 8 students preferred this. They said it's a bit templatey so far, but they like it. Um, B is attractive and creative. It stands out, but the color kind of like coordination is kind of off-putting to them. They wanted like a little bit more of a color balance and yeah, a balance in terms of color and complementariness here. Um, so just a small idea for them. But they liked how creative it was and how it stood out. Um, C, interestingly, although it was rated lowest, like it was rated, or students mentioned that they thought that from this would come the most functionality, meaning if they wanted to just simply look at program requirements, which is again like the number one task that the student, specific task the students would be looking to perform on the website, um, they'd come here because it looks like it would quickly provide it to them, and it's easy. It's like very functional website. It's not going to jump at them with different designs and then uh, ways to confuse and whatnot. So they preferred this in terms of like um, how easy it'd be to get to program requirements, which is again was the most important piece of information for them to find. That was the most important task for them on the website. So again, like the form of A, this is a good reference. Using the form of the first mockup, the creativity uh, of B, like maybe like the cover art of B, and the functionality of C, like this the sense of security that you might find what you're looking um, for lack of better explanation of all of this. Um, yeah, yeah, and the last document, the last page in this slide. Uh, Last page in the slide here, I'm going to have all of the research documentation that you might need. So yeah, if there's any questions, just let me know, and hope this is useful.